You said that it was your biggest fear that you would be seen as a transphobe.
Yeah.
What does that say about our society today? Because I think most people listening wouldn't blame you for feeling that way. That you've gone through the worst thing imaginable to most people, and yet your biggest fear is someone might call you a phobe of some sort.
That doesn't just impact me in terms of, how I feel, because like I say, I'm very much for people who live as you want to live as long as you don't hurt others. However, it's what that leads to. Everything I do, every interview I do, I risk losing my job, which then rolls down to my family, which then rolls down to my home. I don't just put myself on the risk here. I don't just cry at home because I'm called a transphobe. There's so much more to this. And it's because I'm speaking my opinion and trying to safeguard, young girls out there who are being abused today. Because it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And actually, what it comes down to is I'm risking my livelihood, which I have built from nothing. I've had nothing. I'm risking that now, all for the sake of saying what's happened and saying a truth and a reality. And it's like, I don't know how I can win against that.
That's a weird place to be in. A weird place to be in. And it's something I talk about a lot on this show, of course, just the oppressive nature of our society now, that even someone who's gone through what you've gone through, just pointing out and telling your story without saying anything inflammatory, your biggest fear now is that, because of course, you could lose absolutely everything. And you've built from such a difficult beginning. You've built, you speak wonderfully and eloquently. And I mean, how are you now? I think I saw that you have PTSD and you're overcoming those issues.
So I have PTSD and acute depression. That doesn't go away. I manage it, as anyone would. PTSD affects me more overnight time. So in the day, I'm very in touch with myself, very in control. I'm confident in speaking about what happened to me. It helps me. But actually at night, when my subconscious takes over, I have nightmares where I'll literally sit up and I'll be shouting and screaming. And it's because what happened is still there. I can sit here, smiling, saying I'm lucky, saying all these things, but actually this is for life. The effect that this has on me is forever. And ultimately it affects everything else. My little one, if they come to me and want some advice about sex when they're older, what's to say they're not going to be too afraid to ask because of what I've been through and they don't want to upset me? This doesn't just affect me, it affects everyone around me. And actually, that's something I have to live with daily. No matter how much I stand here or sit here and smile and say, yeah, great, okay, let's make sure that it's safe for everyone else. The reality is harsh and I have to deal with the consequences. I don't go home and smile and think, oh, that's another day's work done. It has an effect.
Do you have a relationship now and things like that? Are you able to enjoy being in a romantic relationship?
It's something that took a long time and still has an effect now. Clive told me when I was younger that when we were 16, we'd run away together and we could be together forever. He saw me as like someone he would marry, someone he would be with, which obviously wouldn't happen legally in this country. But to go from the one person in your life who you thought loved you and did everything in your best interest and thinking that they were the whole world, to then realizing how much they'd taken from you and how much they'd abused you, building any kind of romantic relationship is just unreal. And statistically, it doesn't happen. People who are abused when they're young often don't have stable relationships because of that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But it sounds like you're making a go of it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm lucky. I have a home, I have a loving family around me, I have a career, I have a relationship, and I'm thriving. I absolutely am in comparison to most. And this is where I'm lucky, but this is why I've got to speak out. Yeah. Because it's for the people who can't.
And I respect that you do. I mean, that takes real courage. Most people in your situation don't do that, and that's understandable as well.
Absolutely.
How did your siblings and your mother react when it all came crashing down?
So it actually affected my siblings a lot more, and I think it still does. And it's crazy because when you think about it, you're like, whoa, what do you mean? How does that work? But actually, it's not a surprise to me. I knew who was this person the whole time. I knew my whole life he was a pedophile and that he was doing these things. So the shock factor for me was gone. for my siblings, suddenly their father's taken away and they're told to accept the fact that he was a bad man, he's a pedophile, and he did these things to me. How do you as an older brother cope with the fact that your younger sister was, raped in her house and there was nothing you could do? It could have completely broke us. Some of us it has, but we're a unit and we're strong and we're very lucky to have each other. Unfortunately, I have no relationship with my mother. That's a lot of things that kind of went up in the air. A lot of my own theories I kind of have from that. And, that's something I live with every day. I live with the fact that I'm 26 and I am technically an orphan. I have no parents. I raise myself and I'll continue to do that, but with the support of my siblings around me.
How have you ended up seeming so well-rounded?
I think for me, I absolutely love helping people. That's why I did what I did. I did what my father wanted me to do because I didn't want my little sister to do it. That helped me cope. Okay, you've done that, but look who you've saved. I remember sitting on the end of her bed at night crying, looking at her thinking, I'm so glad that you don't have to go through this, but hating the world for the fact that I did. And I think for me, the thought of staying strong and being strong for them keeps me going. It doesn't happen all the time. I've had really, really low points in my life. I was nearly sectioned. I had multiple suicide attempts. I didn't want to be here anymore because I thought that the abuse was me, and it's not. But it's taken me a long time to do that. And I think when you think about it, I've been out of the abuse a lot less time than I was in it, and there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a reminder, all of those things you've been going through, for anyone who does try to suggest, and people do this, that abuse of, that it's not as bad as all that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it ruins people's lives. It's you're a different person after the abuse happens. That's what I've seen every time I've spoken to somebody who's gone through it.